Hello my friends and welcome. I'll start my video from this one. A Russian S-400 system was kaputted by Ukrainian long-range drones. Well, it seems like drones. Probably it could be also a HIMARS missile. Well, sadly for now I cannot geolocate the position, but it's just a matter of time, so with my next update I'm gonna tell you where it happened. Well, I guess maybe on the Russian territory or occupied territory of Ukraine. But it was really far away from the front lines, and you see this is the command post, command vehicles with some of the very sensitive radar. RLS 94N6, that's the name of this very expensive station. Maybe Russians they noticed something because they started to run from the place. So here comes kaboom. Yeah, definitely. Radar itself was hit. Very precise. Well, judging on this kaboom, after all, I don't think it's HIMARS. I think it's the precise drone strike. And guys, this is absolutely not a decoy, judging on the personnel which was out there and the scale of this event. Yeah, they had there with Blackjack and Matryoshka. Well, not any longer. The surveillance was done by Ukrainian Shark drone, as it mentioned here. Ukraine produces lots of those Shark drones, but still they're in lack of the range. That's why I think it was not that far away from the front lines, but still behind. So Russia continued to lose their systems, and we have this evidence that was published today. Maybe it is the reference to events which happened a couple of days ago. Then I said, oh, for now I don't have the evidence and I should wait for video confirmation. Back then it was reported that Russia lost S-400 in Kursk region. Well, maybe it was this case, because it is also S-400 system, as mentioned. Definitely a fat target was kaputted by Ukraine, and the radar itself is more expensive compared to launchers, so of course it's the target number one in all of the system. In Russia, it seems like they're in lack of those systems because Ukrainian drones are becoming more and more effective, targeting Russian sensitive infrastructure. By the way, I have some of the news about that stuff. For example, here we have a new record, 2,000 kilometers away from Ukrainian border. This is absolute craziness. Two main oil refinery was hit, and it was confirmed that it wasn't smoking in the wrong place in the wrong time. No, it was definitely a Ukrainian drone in action. By the way, back in 2009, I was in Tumen. I was doing my line training on ATR 42. So I spent in Tumen at least 2 months, and on my pilot blog I recorded a video about my experience flying in Russia. It was kind of interesting. Yeah, our Ukrainian airline, they sent us for line training to Russia because by the time there was no conflict between Ukraine and Russia, and Russians, they had the same airplane type, ATR. So yeah, I'm quite familiar with the city and with the airport itself. Well, I haven't been to this refinery before, but seeing it's kaputted, actually, it warms my heart a little. Knowing that the Russian economy is declining more is always pleasant. So this is the refinery, it was filmed, and here are the damages from the close perspective. Well, I don't think that drone hit a very sensitive part. Maybe Russians even created this cage like they do with their tanks to protect sensitive equipment, but it is important as the fact itself. Ukrainian drone broke the new record, 2,000 kilometers, and hit the refinery. Yeah, maybe not in a very important part, but it hit it, so Ukraine may continue to do the same stuff it does. And as it was reported, Russians didn't even activate air sirens. Crazy, they didn't expect it to happen that far. Well, it looks like after all there was some sort of the fire brigades were deployed to the place, but still I don't know the scale of it, like whether a refinery was definitely hit hard or not. I don't have the real evidence, just a single image showing the damage to outside things, protection or whatsoever, so it's not the distillation unit on that image exactly which was shown, but there could be not a single drone, so I'm now still waiting for more information coming from Tumen because it happened like 0 hours ago, so maybe more videos will be published or photos. Well, actually, guys, this is the sensitive part of equipment. This is the distillation unit, which was hit by Ukraine, but whether it was hit internally, it's hard to say. The damages are mostly visible outside, however, at the same time, there could be internal fire in this place. So I need more of the information, but still, this result is absolutely astonishing. And just look at this, oh my god, it It looks like a volcano erupted somewhere in Crimea, in Feodosia, by the way. Well, it's not a volcano, I'm joking. Crimea doesn't have those. This is the Russian oil storage facility, the biggest one in Crimea, by the way, and Feodosia port is used by a Russian military too. So maybe their ships will again struggle without any sort of the fuel. Wow, what a show Ukrainian drones might present to Russians. That special military operation definitely goes according to plan. Well, maybe not Putin's plan, but that's the other stuff. That's the latest image we have from our military correspondents from the place, and they show that definitely fire there continues. Eruption in progress. Feodosia is warming up this cold night. Yeah, I just want to show you where it is. So this is Feodosia Bay, the place for the Russian military. And where's the oil storage? Well, it's over here. Even on this low resolution image you may see it clearly. So several fuel tanks are just burning. And yeah, one more night photo from Feodosia. Still the fire continues. Yeah, this is huge, guys. Absolutely big oil storage out there, which is gone. Well, maybe not gone entirely. Maybe some of the fuel tanks or oil tanks are still out there. But since the fire continues for almost 24 hours, I may say that it is a very significant strike. Indeed. And the NASA fire detection satellites also confirmed that. Oh, and one more Russian air defense was just annihilated. This is the Buk M1 air defense system. You see our drones are chasing it and coming closer, 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 and kaboom! Yeah? Or what happened there? Oh, it was a landing. Landing between those missiles. What a view! Oh, maybe they want to track it like that? Cameras from the side. What is happening? Like, our drone is on the roof. It's the first time I see this kind of the image. I didn't see it before filming this video, guys. It's crazy. After 15 kilometers. So our drone was working as a spy, yeah? As a bug. Oh, it's right. Like, what those Russians are doing. Oh my god. Oh, it's a spy drone, really. Maybe it carried some of the explosives inside, or what? It is very smart. They saw the drone. They took pictures. Oh, jeez. It's better not to touch it, otherwise it will kaboom. Like, what the hell is happening? Let's film it. And next, oh, this guy took the branch. Oh my freaking god. They didn't know what to do, but it is out there with those huge missiles. Oh, they start to run. Run, run, run. Yeah, it's better run. They saw it sticking. That's it? That's all the video? Well, I hope it was some sort of the big kaboom. This video is hilarious. Well, here the comments say that after all, the Buk was kaboomed by the drone just a little later. And they also clarify that it wasn't not the Buk M1, but Buk M3, so a more modern version. Well, actually it was happening like that before. For example, this video was shared a few months ago with Russian Buk, and also drone landed on top. It proceeded and traced the system, and later on the system was kaputted. We have even the image coming from the drone itself, so it's like a spy bug drone. Yeah, back then it was Buk M1. But yeah, it was pretty much funny to see those Russian soldiers running around, filming everything on the phone. And with this branch, oh, the guy definitely wanted to win a Darwin Award, but after all they were scared about that one and ran away. This is the city of Belgorod. We don't see it because there is a total blackout and just air sirens are working. As it is reported and shown again, it was the drone strike on their facility. You see, significant damage for the second day consecutive. Ukrainian drones really try to annihilate it. And yeah, today there was one more strike confirmed. So last night and today, facility requires significant maintenance. And since it's very close to Ukrainian border, Ukraine has opportunities to launch hundreds of drones to this place. And it is a response of Ukraine against Russian attacks on Kharkiv, for example, because Russia ruins Kharkiv energy infrastructure as well as the Chernihiv Oblast infrastructure. There are also blackouts. So if Russia wants blackouts in Ukraine, they may obtain those also in Russia. And Zelensky also noticed that we can do it in Moscow. Well, we'll see. And legacy media already stated that Ukraine started to use Flamingo missiles once again, because before there was a single operation just conducted by Ukraine using those missiles towards Artemovsk FSB Command 4 post or something. One of the missiles hit the facility, the other one went nearby, so missed it. Well, maybe Ukraine figured out how to strike Russian infrastructure more precisely. What the hell is Russia doing? According to Osint Analytics, Russia is putting anti-drone equipment, some of the nets or meshes, really far away from Ukraine, 2,500 kilometers, and this is the Russian range for nuclear weaponry. They really think that Ukraine may hit their nuclear arsenal. Oh my god. And do they really keep everything of that open air? Well, I'm not sure, but Osint Analytics reported that Russia is protecting its arsenal, nuclear arsenal, far away, and they presented this image. Interesting. Yeah, they're building those hangars-cages. It is outstanding, I would say. They really think that Ukraine might do it. Wow, at this distance and hitting nuclear arsenal? Well, I do not honestly think that Ukraine will or may do it. And yeah, before Kyiv Refinery halts the largest unit after drone attack, sources say so. It is no longer operational. It requires significant maintenance, and this refinery is one of the biggest ones in Russia. Russia is in a deep problem with their refinery facilities, but as Zelensky mentioned before, Russia purchases some of the fuel from partners, from the neighboring countries. So the biggest fuel station out there is unable to produce own fuel at required amount. Alright guys, as for the front lines update, the situation is, I would say, difficult for Ukraine, especially in the Dnipropetrovsk region, where Russia gains the ground almost every day. So it was yesterday, it is today. Russians propelled not far away from Olehivska, and let's zoom out just a little and let's see, for the last couple of days they gained quite a lot of the ground. Well, even though Ukraine sent some of the reinforcements, but after all, I think Russians will be stopped somewhere before this river. On the northern side, Ukraine started a counteroffensive roughly 3 days ago. It was a successful one, but here Russians started to push more. So today we see how they fully occupied Malinivka. Ukraine has withdrawn the forces back to war, and the battle is continuing here, and Russians tried to move from Verbova northbound to Oleksiivka. That is how they want to create one more threat for Ukrainian army group located in Sosnivka and in this entire place. So for that they have two of those attack vectors, and Ukraine is forced to act elsewhere, here. In general, Russians want to break through Ukrainian defense in this area and go to this road to Oristopol. Then from Oristopol they want to climb the higher elevation to this plateau and then go to this highway. From the highway, their goal is to get Pokrovsk under control, which is the main supply hub for Ukrainian army. So something like this, from this direction and this direction to Pokrovsk, and they want to use it as the bridgehead for the further movement to Zaporizhia. And by the way, they try to advance from the south, but for now unsuccessfully. Well, I don't think that in a close or even middle-term perspective Russians could be successful here, but they take more ground and they propel the most in this direction. This map is from the Michael73. The link for his Twitter account is in the video description just below, where you may check out this map. I guess this map he published yesterday evening. Ukraine has some of the attempts to regain the ground with 110th Brigade, but Russia has prevailing forces and it's very difficult to stop them for now. Yeah, there were a couple of the counterattacks and Russians are unable to regain this portion of the ground, but it might take longer time and more resources to stop Russians completely or slow down them. What I also noted reviewing the information coming from the front lines, and it is very strange as for me, that we know that Russia is moving towards Liman, from Kolodesy also towards Dobrusheva, from Yampil, so they are getting closer to the settlement because they want to use it as the bridgehead to advance towards Slaviansk, or at least I thought that they could use it as a bridgehead because their recent move actually shocked me. I didn't expect it from Russians, I expected from Ukrainian army. Russians kaputted the bridges from Radio Gorodok, so in this case they obviously cut supplies for Ukrainian army towards Liman, and if they go and take, for example, this bridge under control, well, I would say that Ukraine will be forced to leave Liman. Well, there is one more line line over here somewhere, but in general there are not many bridges across the Siversky Donets River. So yeah, Russians may take Liman in this case. Liman, by the way, was destroyed already because Russians occupied it back in 2022. Ukraine later on liberated it, but it was a very heavy fighting out there. So Russians may again occupy this ruined city and nearby settlements. But what is next? Because tactically, yeah, they could be successful in Liman, but they cut those bridges, so they will not be able to advance further towards Slavyansk. Yeah, Slavyansk is over here, and this river, it is not a small one, not a narrow one. It is a very big obstacle, really. So Russians created huge problems for themselves, for the future perspective, obviously, not for now, because with that, actually, they might take Liman now. And we have the real evidence confirmation coming from the Russian drone. So this is Radio Gorodok, exactly the same place. Yeah, this is the video. It shows complete devastation of this bridge. Before it was okay, but now with several strikes, Russia completely cut it. And also railroad bridge too. So how they want to go across it for the further advancement towards Slavyansk, I don't know, but Slavyansk is pretty much secured now from the northern side. But again, yeah, it creates the threat for Liman itself. It is simply not possible to cross this wide river with substantial amount of the forces. Absolutely not possible. And here are the latest vehicle losses for the last week. However, in these statistics there are lots of the old images before this date, so it's not accurate, I may say. Nevertheless, Russia lost 54 of the tanks and armored vehicles, and Ukraine 27. Again, most of those were lost in the previous battles, but were confirmed just right now with visual evidence. A Ukrainian channel called Війна в Україні втрати техніки, so War in Ukraine vehicle losses, analyzes all of the images coming from every sort of the site and publishes those details about vehicle losses. They have tons of them here, but sometimes those photos are older, yeah, well before, but just were published. Alright, the situation in Pokrovsk-Dobropilya direction. Here the front lines are boiling, and I found this map. It shows this entire area in a gray zone, because everything is mixed out there. Let me show you the situation in Nikhonorivka village that was published roughly 3 days ago. So Russians are controlling this part of the village, then this part, but the Ukrainian positions are also further behind the previous Russian positions. Also, Ukrainians took this forest patch, so it is not understandable who controls what. That's why it's all in a gray area, let's say. There is the presence of Ukrainian army and of Russian army. So we have to keep patience and wait who controls what in this place. Pokrovsk-Dobropilya direction is, after all, very intense. Guys, I try to speak less and less about Donald Trump on this channel, but his remark about Tomahawk missiles, well, I want to point out the attention on it. And let's listen what he answered to one of the journalists who asked Donald Trump about supplyment of the Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine.
On whether to supply Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine or sell them to NATO and let them sell them to Ukraine.
Yeah, I've sort of made a decision, pretty much, if you consider. Yeah, I think I want to find out what they're doing with them.
Yes.
You know, where are they sending them, I guess. I'd have to ask that question. That war should never have started.
So here Donald Trump said that he already made the decision, yeah? Let's listen this part.
Yeah, I've sort of made a decision, pretty much.
I've sort of made a decision pretty much, or as far as I heard, yeah? And here he probably immediately understands that he said too much.
If you consider, yeah.
Here, no, I say too much.
I think I want to find out what they're doing with them.
I think I'm going to find out what they are doing with them, with those Tomahawk missiles, yeah?
You know, where are they sending them, I guess. I'd have to ask that question.
Here I also don't understand ask question from Ukraine where they will send those missiles, or ask the question from European partners whether they will send Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine, for Ukraine to deliver those to Russia, I mean towards Russian oil refineries and so on. Well, if you check out Russian TV, they're absolutely sure that Ukraine will get those Tomahawk missiles. Well, I still have great doubts about Donald Trump's decision, but he said he made the decision. It's very interesting. And I wonder about the ground launchers, whether the United States has it in its own army or not, because this information is not public, it is top secret. But what we know that the ground launchers were developed for Tomahawk and not only, but the number of those, yeah, we'll only find out, then they will send those to Ukraine or to NATO if Donald Trump says the decision he has pretty much made. Well, for Ukraine, it could be really a new story with those Tomahawk missiles, because previous White House administration, they even hesitated to give permission for Ukraine to use ATACMS missiles on Russian territory. But now with Donald Trump doesn't really care about Ukrainian strikes on Russia, as you see. He's not saying that Ukraine should stop those strikes. You know, who was in the previous White House administration? Jake Sullivan. Jake Sullivan insisted for Ukraine to stop those strikes on Russian refineries because they were afraid to escalate. And with Donny, yes, he is an idiot, but this positive side of his that he doesn't really care. It's your war in Ukraine, Russia, whatsoever. You need to make peace, but the current situation for him, it's very, very distant. So Ukraine is using this time to actually harm Russian economy. Yes, not with American-made weaponry. However, some of the sources said that today's attack on Belgrade was conducted by HIMARS. Well, maybe, but we are not sure. The most of the strikes are being done with the help of the long-range drones. But Tomahawk missiles definitely might help Ukraine to achieve really precise and devastating goals, especially if they are being launched as a swarm of those missiles. Those missiles are not very big, but very capable and also very hard to intercept. That's why United States is using that technology for decades. So could those be some good news from Donny? Well, I hope so, but still I wouldn't believe it until I see it. Well, even if Ukraine gets those Tomahawk missiles, it's gonna be a question how Ukraine could use those, because United States would be in charge of those weapons as the previous administration was in charge of ATACMS, not letting Ukraine to act fully, yeah? So in this case, Flamingo missiles, they have more perspective to be used by Ukraine at the full range on any sort of the target. However, Tomahawk missiles are well proven by multiple of the operations. Flamingo is here and there, you know, it was just made, it's very wet, and Ukraine will have to modernize this missile. We see that it's not that widely in use now. That's why Tomahawk, after all, is important. Also, I would agree with the statement of Donald Trump that this war should have never ever started, and it's not about Donald Trump's presidency. If I were president, war would never. No, Russians should have stayed in Russia and not coming to Ukraine with fight. That's why it should have never ever been started by Putin's regime and Russia in general. And guys, please support my job. If you have this opportunity and you're willing to support it, you may do it by joining me on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description just below, or just sign up for membership of this YouTube channel. Thank you guys for making this content possible. And as always, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.